So sometimes loving yourself begins from not feeling loved the right way or the correct way. And sometimes when you think about it, it's not really about the person or the people who you think that are not loving you right. Because guess what? People have different ways of loving, and it's just that sometimes our love languages do not match the way the other people's love giving languages are. And so sometimes someone will love you, but then you don't feel loved. So being loved and feeling loved are two different things. So that's where self-love comes in, because guess what? No one is going to love you. Sometimes some people will love you how you want to be loved, and you're lucky if you find that. But in most cases, or in other cases, I won't say in most because I don't know what the most is, but in other cases you will find that it just never clicks the right way that you want it to be. And so it teaches you to fill in the gaps, because guess what? You need that, what you need, whatever it is you need it. And so you cannot keep chasing for it in people, in places and things, because guess what? If you do that, then you're gonna keep chasing and chasing and chasing, and that's not a good way to live, I think. To keep chasing, chasing and chasing and chasing. Till when? So I guess that's where self-love comes in, and you're like, you know what? I love affirmation. So I'm gonna affirm myself. I'm gonna keep on affirming myself. Oh, I love quality time. And if no one is gonna give it to me the way I need it, I'm going to spend lots of time alone so I can give myself that quality time. Or I love I don't know, acts of service. Like we receive love in different ways, and also we give love in different ways. In most cases, if I love quality time, it's very likely that I also love to give quality time. But also, it does not necessarily. Sometimes I might like to give love in other ways. Yeah. So if you have you end up with a partner, and it's funny how I say you end up. You shouldn't really end up, but I guess sometimes that's what happens in life. You end up with things and people, Yeah, so you may end up with someone who does not speak your love language, or who struggles to really love you the way you like to be loved. And it could be maybe they really do love you, but they do not know how to do certain things how you feel loved. And so instead of chasing things and places and all that, you end up learning. And this is just from my own experience, because I think that this is one way of learning to love someone. It might sound like settling, but in a way it's a way of just saying, okay, how can I look at my situation in a more positive way, or in another way, so that I do not feel like, oh, this is the wrong situation I'm in. Like, obviously you're married and when you got married, you were excited about it. It's not like you were forced. It's not like you were, of course, we have doubts, but it's something you genuinely were excited for and thought that it would work. And then along the way, it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't mean that you should just run out of it and look for something else, because it's the same cycle that's going to happen in another thing that you're trying to run to. Because relationships take work, and like you have to work on them, and sometimes they're in their journeys, like sometimes where how you started, you didn't really know about it, you didn't know certain things about each other, and then you start to get to know them. But at least if there is that initial commitment or one wish for commitment, I think that's a good start. And you shouldn't run into like, oh, let me run away, and oh, this is not working. Sometimes it's good to like try to figure out how to make it work, especially if it's not like life threatening or like really toxic, and your life is not in danger. And there's some ways to work around it, as as you see what else. If you really have to end and give up, you have to try so many different things. So I guess this is what brings me to the self-love conversation of like, okay, if someone is not loving me how I love to be loved, and I'm communicating over and over that I need this, and they are not giving it to me, sometimes it means that I should start giving it to myself and fill my own cup, and then maybe eventually they'll catch up. Like, basically focus on you giving you what you want, not of course by yourself. Sometimes you might get these things with friendships or strangers or passions, or other ways to like fill this cup as you just go. Because at the end of the day, sometimes if you're in this long-term relationship that you even have children with, it's not something that you can easily just run out of and be like, okay, I'm done with this, I'm gonna look for someone who can love me like this. Or because wherever you're running to, those other people, they also have flaws, and so you're just gonna keep it should be more of an inward journey when it comes to love. And it has to be more inward, and the more you fall in love with you, and the more you feed into you, the more you're able to even just love people unconditionally, and just because you're not looking for them to fill you up, you're just loving them because you already have love within yourself. And so you just give out of abundance, and you're not really giving out of scarcity, and like, oh, I'm loving you, what are you loving me, how are you loving me too? Or I'm doing this for you, how are you doing this for me too? Like, it's not about what do I get out of this. It's more of, I'm just giving out of love, and I'm not giving for love. And I think when I think about it, it's more even with friendship, and in fact, all kind of love should begin with friendship. And I think in most cases we forget that friendships are such a big part of love, and we focus so much on romantic situations. But our love begins with ourselves, and then our friendships, and then our friends, and then maybe our romantic situations. Yeah, so basically I've been on this journey, and I think um I'm grateful to get to know me, get to love on me, and learn how to love on me on days when I don't feel love, to a point where I don't even feel like someone else loving me really affects me much. Like, yeah, I appreciate it, but it's not like it's taking me away from me, thinking about me and loving me, basically. Like, yeah, if you love on me today, it's not gonna make such a big difference, because I already love myself. Like, I don't want to depend on like external things that are, because I've been there, and it's not a pretty picture. It's very, very sad when you do not feel the love. It's beautiful when you feel it, and then tomorrow what happens? So we are all faulty human beings. We all have faults. We all flawed in different ways, and if I'm loving on you today, tomorrow I might not feel good about myself, or maybe I might have a challenge, or something might take my mind more, and it doesn't mean that I'll love you less because of a challenge, but I might not give you the same attention or the same energy as when I'm full and happy, and and not distracted by certain challenges. And because maybe the person on the receiving end is really needing that thing, and so that energy, that specific energy from yesterday, and because I'm not able to give it today, that fluctuation might affect them, because like, oh, yesterday you made me feel good, and now today you haven't, so I'm sad, and I think that's where there's a challenge, because sometimes we should be, it's okay to feel like, oh, I miss yesterday's energy. Yeah, so it's okay to feel like, oh, I miss yesterday's energy, which was nice and lovely and all that. But it's also good to recognize that someone loving you should be an addition to the love you already have for yourself. And if you feel like someone loving you is what is driving your purpose, and what is driving your passion and your zeal and everything, then there's a problem. I don't want to call it a problem, but there's a disparity in that. Even though someone loving you and making you feel good is good, because obviously we are social beings. You don't want to just love yourself by yourself. It's beautiful to share love with someone else, but I think there's this constant, this thing that I just want to work on, that you have a constant, and the constant is you. Other people are not going to be constant, and by sometimes when you relate you to God, because we are connected to God. God is in us. God is inside of us. He's in our minds. He's in our thoughts. He's in, we are connected, especially if we are believers. So, if if we concentrate on that constant, because all these other things keep fluctuating up and down, and so you get to a point where you just observe the fluctuations and they do not affect you. So that's why it's very important to like have that self-love and because it's you. Of course, tomorrow I might not feel good, but I'm not going to judge myself. I give myself grace and I just accept myself how I am, and I just want to keep in that consistency of that self-love. And the consistency of self-love is not to say that I'm not going to have a bad day, but it means that even when I have a bad day, I have grace for myself and I'm not judging myself, and which is a little bit difficult with human beings or fellow human beings, because we may have grace for each other, but we fall short, and sometimes we don't know how to receive our friends in less of who we think they should show up as. Like if someone is not who you wanted them to be that day, or say their energy is low, then all of a sudden you're like, people are not, oh, that's why I don't trust people, oh, that's why I don't get close to people, and then all of a sudden we are discouraged. Yeah, so I think if we focus more on, and I don't want to sound like I'm advising anyone, but I think that whenever I focus on me and focus on loving myself and focus on being there for myself and being constant, and it gives me more momentum for life, rather than having this idea of, oh, I have this friend, oh, we will talk, or we will catch up, or I have this, like, I want that, and I look forward for those things, but I'm not like super attached to that anymore. I just, when it happens, great. Oh my goodness, great. If it doesn't, it's fine. Like it's more of a grace thing, but also like detachment thing, because people are people. We fall short, and we cannot be perfect for each other. So self-love is connected to, I guess, God too. And also from where I started this conversation, it's like, okay, self-love begins from where you feel like people have not given you. So when you find yourself trying to blame people, oh, this one is not there for me, blah, blah, blah. But are you there for them all the time? No. And even if you're there for them all the time, and you feel that they are not there for you, like that means you're giving from a scarcity, like you're giving more than what you're receiving, and so it makes you feel like it should be reciprocal. But then when you give out of love, you're giving from abundance. But if you give and then you feel like, I'm not getting enough, and yet I give a lot, then that means it's not balancing. So yeah, so just a random conversation that I just had, and I think it's actually really insightful. I think really I liked it. And I like what it could be, this conversation. Yeah, so thank you for listening and being part of it. I love you. Mwah.